in his annual shareholder letter today, Fink issued a warning to his Davos buddies, saying the Russian invasion of Ukraine has put an end to the globalization we've experienced over the last 3 decades. Companies and governments will also be looking more broadly at their dependencies on other nations.
What's fascinating, Laura, is this is economic globalization. This was supposed to make us all live in utopia. And here we have an architect of it, and he's saying, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, he would say, you know, capital chases labor and production cost anywhere in the world where they're the cheapest. And now he's saying we can't do that. And I think he's saying that because the natural order of history is not calm, it's not peace, it's not cooperation. Unfortunately, and tragically, it's war, it's revolution, it's plague.
Shalom, Ka'ala Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rakakodash. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, with the house of David reborn again in this generation. And Shalom to the 130 Asherallah, who today are known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Before losing our true heritage, we were known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about this video we just watched and about how the CEO of Blackrock, which is the largest investment firm in the world, right? Basically they're the company that pretty much owns the world, right? They're tied in with the Rothschilds. They've basically been the orchestrators and managers of the last 2 major bailouts of the economy that the government dealt with to basically bail out the 2018 collapse and then the later collapse that came through after that. Well, this company, Blackrock, not only have they gobbled up, for the most part, the majority of the largest corporations in the world, but they have managed to place their control or their influence within multiple government nations around the world. Right? Basically, they have voting power because they buy property in other countries, and they basically hold government debts, which basically give them special voting rights, basically. Right? They're, like I said again, it's basically the Rothschilds' investment arm in the world. And I found a video that actually, it's a quick 2-minute video that explains what Blackrock is. So let's watch it real quick.
There's a good chance you've never heard of Blackrock. Founded in only 1988, in less than 30 years, this American financial firm would grow to become the company that owns the world, managing assets worth $6.3 trillion. These are assets that belong to their clients, mainly the pension funds of ordinary people, teachers, police officers, nurses, and many more. And that's just the beginning. Blackrock has also developed a software platform called Aladdin to perform risk analysis for its clients. It receives sensitive data from banks, insurance companies, and other important institutions. Through Aladdin, Blackrock has insights about the management of financial assets worth another $20 trillion. Blackrock also has shares and voting rights in many of the biggest European companies, in sectors such as energy, oil and gas, transportation, food, and of course, finance. The company holds public debt in the form of bonds and has real estate interests. And still, there's more. Our Rock, you see, wears many hats. Aside from being an investor, it is also an auditor and an advisor. Governments and central banks invite a Blackrock subsidiary called Blackrock Solutions to audit them and to provide advice about the management and rescue of banks. Yet at the same time, Blackrock is often a major shareholder in these same banks. In other words, the company often sits on both sides of the table. Blackrock Solutions gets privileged access to highly sensitive information that could be valuable to Blackrock itself. Does this constitute a conflict of interest? No, says Blackrock, which claims that the company has established Chinese walls between its different subsidiaries. In January 2018, Blackrock's founder and chairman, Larry Fink, sent a letter to all of the CEOs of the companies Blackrock is invested in, asking them to do more than deliver financial performance and make a positive contribution to society. So Blackrock not only owns the world, it also wants to save it?
And like I mentioned, Blackrock is basically tied in with Rothschild. if you look, some Rothschilds actually admit to owning shares in this company. But for the most part, like I said, this is simply an arm, a corporational arm of the elites, right? Or what the Bible would refer to as the kings of the world, right? The kings of Edom. Now, this guy, Larry Fink, right? The guy who's currently running Blackrock, he's come out and said that it says, what does it say? Blackrock head says the New World Order has failed, right? And why is that? Well, because of the current war going on right now between Russia and Ukraine, right? And basically the whole shift in the population of the earth and their perception of what's going on. Pretty much people don't want to work, and the people that are willing to work, they want a lot more from their employers. Gas prices going up, and basically he's saying, let me see if I can find it. Let's just read some of these highlighted points. The article goes on and says, breaking up, the war in Ukraine has upended the global economy. Severe sanctions have isolated Russia, and supply chain shocks have roiled markets for food, energy, and other commodities. Some of the most influential investors on Wall Street say that these disruptions, which come as the global economy was beginning to recover from the pandemic, may have permanently altered the world order. Larry Fink of Blackrock sees the end of globalization, right? Basically the New World Order. In his latest letter to shareholders, the asset management giant co-founder and CEO writes that Russia's invasion has broken the cross-border bounds between countries, companies, and people that were already strained by the pandemic. Russia's aggression in Ukraine and its subsequent decoupling from the global economy is going to prompt companies and governments worldwide to reevaluate their dependencies and reanalyze their manufacturing and assembly footprints, something that COVID had already spurred many to start doing, right? And that's true, right? Because I was just looking, in my, daily watching for lessons and everything, I just seen how, I forgot what African country it was. I think it was Ghana, which is one of the highest producers of cocoa beans in the entire world, right? Basically chocolate beans. But one thing that this country doesn't do is it doesn't produce chocolate, right? But what they decided to do, because of the whole pandemic and shipping things out, they're actually going to start producing more of the chocolate there in Ghana instead of shipping it to, for example, Swiss or Switzerland, right? They're going to actually give tax incentives to have companies go and manufacture the chocolate there in their own country. And you're seeing a lot of these things going on, right? When Trump was in office, he basically made car manufacturers that were outside of America pay a higher tax to import their cars here into America, right? Which prompted a lot of car companies that were, American-based to bring their factories back to America, right? Those are just some examples, but that's what this is talking about. This continues, says, Howard Marks of Oaktree predicts a similar shift in his latest investor letter, right? So here's another big way, right? It says, citing the security risk of Europe's reliance on Russian energy and the U.S. outsourcing of computer chip manufacturing. The recognition of these negative aspects of globalization has now caused the pendulum to swing back to local sourcing. Rather than the cheapest, easiest, and greenest sources, there'll probably be more of a premium put on the safest and surest. The war will have many long-term economic consequences. The two note, deglobalization will push inflation even higher, Fink writes, forcing central banks to choose between higher prices or lower economic activity. The Marx writes And Marx writes that countries whose economies benefited from outsourcing will be hurt from any reversal. That said, Fink sees countries like Brazil, Mexico, and the U.S. benefiting from more local production, right? Because the reason why they're saying Brazil and Mexico is, see, these are going to be the country where America and these Western powers like Canada and America are going to ship jobs to, right? This is why there's a huge Toyota factory, and I think even a Chevrolet factory in Mexico, right? That and even Sony factory, I believe, too. There's lots of factories there in Mexico. I have some family members that work in some of these factories, and they're considered like really good jobs. Continuing, the turmoil could bolster virtual currencies, and look, see, there he goes, right? See, because the reality of all this is, even though these devils are saying that the New World Order is dead, that's far from the truth. Now, this may be, you know, the beginning aspects of it, which plays right into prophecy, which we'll get into in just a bit. But the New World Order is far from finishing or being done with. Okay, we are still going through this so-called Great Reset, which is really just the New World Order being implemented. But these devils are not going to quit until the Lord comes back to stop them. Let's continue reading. Fink writes, noting that the U.S. is studying the implications of the digital dollar. Previously somewhat of a skeptic of cryptocurrencies, he now writes, a global digital payment system, right? Look at that, a global digital payment system thoughtfully designed can enhance the settlement of international transactions while reducing the risk of money laundering and corruption. Blackrock is now weighing adding crypto and blockchain offerings to its portfolio. And it will eventually, because that's ultimately where these devils are taking the narrative to, right? This is why, again, before this guy probably was let in on it, this is why he was skeptical of digital currencies, right? But again, now that he understands what's going on, and I wouldn't doubt that there's a reason why this guy's coming out and saying these things, right? But you know, it's all part of the agenda, right? Order out of chaos, right? Let's continue. The two differ on what the war means for green energy. Marx writes that countries will opt for more readily accessible sources of fuel, even if there's not the cleanest. Fink, however, believes that shock to oil prices and that same desire for national energy security will accelerate the adoption of clean energy, right? So again, just showing that even though they're saying that the New World Order is dead and so that or has failed, the agenda and the narrative that these globalists are pushing is still being forwarded, okay? See, what this is, it's basically like that part in the scary movies where you think the bad guy has died and he's laying on the floor and everybody's all happy and hugging, and and then everything's all calm, and then all of a sudden the bad guy, the monster, jumps up and scares the crap out of everybody and ends up killing somebody, right? That's ultimately what's going on. These devils are pushing forward a fake, right? But again, it's either that or that they think that some of these things are actually being basically their plans aren't working. This is Isaiah 29:15. Woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel from Yahweh Bashem Al Shai, and their work are in the dark. And they say, who seeth us, and who knoweth us? Right? And that's ultimately talking about these Edomites, which is the biblical name for the so-called Caucasian race, right? And primarily, this is talking about the elites or the occultists from the Edomite nation, right? The people who are currently running the world, right? Through their investment corporations like Blackrock, their banking institutions, their government oligarchies, right? All these arms and mountains of governmental and just financial power that run this world are all right now moving towards accomplishing Esau's or Edom's, great agenda, right? That great reset, the New World Order. But again, this isn't going to happen. Even if these devils come out and are saying that it has failed and it's going to go away, again, these guys like to put out a lot of false information, right? And though there's a lot of things that are right now coming out to affect all these markets, you got to remember, these devils play both sides of the table, right? So though they make it seem like that the opportunity has passed and we missed it, and now we're gonna have to, bear with the consequences. No, man, these devils are still pushing forward their agenda, right? Just like the snake bites, they're gonna come back, right? They're talking about the fourth one that needs to be taken, right? And then this digital currency, which has been hinted at for years, and now, it's talked about being adopted all over the world. And you even have this guy here, Larry Fink, talking about adding it to the Blackrock portfolio as far as one of the investment vehicles they're going to use. So you see, these devils, again, they'll say one thing and they'll do another, right? And this is just the way that these devils act, okay? This is Job 20 and 22, excuse me. In the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. Every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. When he is about to fill his belly, God shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him, and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. And that's ultimately what's going to go on, man. You see, these devils are going to destroy the world as you know it, right? The world that you grew up in it either no longer exists if you're a bit older, or if you're a bit younger, your world that you grew up in is very soon going to disappear, right? And what is going to replace it is this new world order that is the result of the Great Reset, right? And in doing so, there's going to be certain things that are going to be needed of you to participate in this new society. First and foremost, it's going to be to take that MOTB, right? That implant in your right hand or your forehead, okay? And then other than that, you're going to have to also be part of this social credit system, which is going to be worldwide. You already see it implemented in China. It's going to soon come to the countries that adopt the MOTB, right? And there's going to just be tons of changes that, from all the videos that we posted, all you all can know what we're talking about. So, but the great thing is that as these devils are implementing this and they make that implant mandatory, that's ultimately, after that happens, that's when World War III is going to break out. That's when the Lord's going to, as it tells you here, it's going to, what does it say? It says, God shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him, and shall rain it upon him while he is eating, right? And that right there is talking about the nuclear missiles, right? And right here, if you read the 24th, it makes it even more clear. He shall flee from the iron weapon, and the bow of steel shall strike him through. It is drawn and cometh out of the body, yea, the glittering sword cometh out of his gall, terrors are upon him. All right, this is ultimately talking about the nuclear ICBM missiles, which will ultimately come and destroy America and the Western powers, right? Basically America, which is known as Babylon the Great in the Bible, and the NATO system, right? Which is basically these European Union nations that have joined on to America, right? Because you see, we will be going through World War III, or what the Bible refers to it as Armageddon, okay? And from that, there's going to be mass destruction and mass die-offs. So says the Bible, okay? And these devils who think that they're about to accomplish their great reset, they're going to be in for a great surprise, right? And that surprise is going to be that the Lord is going to return and destroy them. So I just wanted to share this article. I thought it was interesting with everything that's going on right now to distract us from, Oscar slaps to, all these other bullshit that you see on the news today. But I thought this was interesting. I thought I'd share it. So hopefully you enjoyed it. So until next time, I want to give all honor and glory and praises to Yahweh B'Hashem Yahushai, B'Hashem Rakakwadash. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of the great millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect. Shalom.